finally did it. Check this out. Bam! 1 million aeroplan miles. And bam! 1 million Marriott points. Hey guys, how's it going? This is Daniel, TheLandMiler, and today we're going to be going over my journey to 1 million miles and some tips and advice that I wish I would have gotten when I first started collecting points. If you're new to the channel, I talk about credit cards, how to fly the world in first and business class, so if that's something that you're interested in, definitely consider subscribing to the channel and turning on that notification button. So quite honestly speaking, I have been playing the points game for a little bit over 5 years now. Since that time, I've definitely made a ton of mistakes before I got my game together and decided which points to pursue for maximum value. So as an example of how bad things could get, I was doing a bit of research in my first year. I picked up the BMO World Elite and thought I was getting a ton of value. I raved about how I was getting so many points with the BMO World Elite, and after spending thousands of dollars in the first year, I barely got a return of 2%. And as you probably could have guessed, when I tried to redeem these BMO points, I was wondering why it was so hard to redeem a ticket in business or first class. I glanced over Aeroplan for a little bit and remembered some news about people complaining that there was points expiry, and I didn't even bother to investigate the award chart. Yep, I was that stupid. Same with Starwood Preferred Guest, which is now merged with Marriott. I took a glance at the program and I thought to myself, I didn't really need hotels, so I didn't bother looking into the program. Little did I know that the 25k to 30k SPG point promotions would be worth over 90,000 Marriott points. It was only until a year later that I discovered the usefulness of airline programs, namely Aeroplan and Alaska Mileage Plan. Once I was made aware of the value proposition, I began fine-tuning the cards that I would get to those specific point programs and Marriott Bonvoy, which had the flexibility to convert to both of them. A few months later, I took my very first trip on Japan Airlines first class, and well, I was hooked. And this brings me to my first piece of advice. Do your research. But if you're too lazy to do it, then follow these exact directions. If you're looking for that business class, first class flight, aspirational trips all around the world, and you're a Canadian, then you should be collecting American Express MR, Air Canada's Aeroplan, and Alaska's Alaska Mileage Plan. These are currently by far the most versatile points when you're looking to redeem for those $10,000 flights. You'll also need to be aware of which financial institutions offer these points, and in the case of MR and Aeroplan, you have American Express, CIBC, and TD Bank. Alaska Miles are solely available through MBNA, through their World Elite, or Platinum Alaska MasterCards. You can also collect Marriott Bonvoy if you want to transfer them into Alaska Miles. If this is your first time watching one of my videos, make sure you remember this piece of advice, because the last thing you want to do is collect 1 million miles and have it worth less than 1 cent per point. Still, it's a great achievement, but underwhelming with what you can do with them. Besides the point systems, it's also good to know about categorical multipliers, and a great example of this is the American Express Cobalt card, which offers 5 points per dollar on food and drinks. Currently, Cobalt points can be transferred to Marriott at a 1 to 1.2 ratio, and then subsequently transferred from Marriott to an airline of your choice at 60,000 to 25,000. This means that the 5 MR per dollar that you get on food and drinks will become 2.5 miles to almost any airline. In comparison, this card's earn rate earned more miles than almost any other MasterCard or Visa, which typically earns around 1 to 1.5 points per dollar. These multipliers are really important to research about because you want to know which spending you want to put on which card. Even if you're putting something on the wrong card once or twice a week, over the course of a year, you could be spending thousands of dollars on something that you can be earning 5 points per dollar, but you're earning 1 instead. So if there's something that you're ever curious about, definitely do your research. My second piece of advice is treating annual fees like an investment. Now, this one's really interesting because a lot of people, when they talk about travel hacking, they always mention you can travel for free. And while this is true for the most part, the fact of the matter is the velocity at which you can obtain points is heavily crippled if you're not paying any annual fees. We'll take the American Express Aeroplan Reserve as an example and their offer that's ending on August 3rd. You're going to be paying an annual fee of around $599, but if you are able to maximize the bonus, you'll be getting 150,000 Aeroplan miles. And yes, I'm going to say this right now, $600 does seem like a huge investment, especially for those who have never used their points before. Going back to the doing your research piece, one of the things I usually advise people that I talk to is to go on the Aeroplan website and search up some sample flights. Once there's an understanding of how much 150,000 points brings from a value perspective, the $600 doesn't seem like much. Do I want to fly to Taiwan on EVA Air's business class for $599 plus some taxes when the actual airfare costs $6,000 to $8,000? I think it's a pretty easy choice to make. Once you hit a few of these six-figure sign-up bonuses that American Express is offering up, a million miles doesn't seem so far away. That's not to say that free cards aren't good though. Cards like the CIBC Aeroplan Visa Infinite or the TD Aeroplan Visa Infinite do often offer first-year free promotions and a bunch of Aeroplan miles, and those definitely are very good options. One thing to note though is that you'll have a much harder time hitting those higher point thresholds if you want to be redeeming for business or first class travel. My advice number 3, find a player 2. And while it sounds like I'm committing YouTube career suicide by telling all of the single people to go date, a player 2 doesn't necessarily have to be a boyfriend or girlfriend. This could be anyone from a parent to a sibling, or anyone you are considering pursuing this points game with. And the reason for this? Referral bonuses, baby. And for the most part, this is going to apply to American Express cards who have long had a history of offering incentives on referrals, and these aren't arbitrary amounts either. Cards like the American Express Business Platinum have often offered anywhere from 20 to 25,000 points per referral, and you can refer to several different cards. Just from referrals on some of the business and the personal platinum cards, you could be looking at racking up over 100,000 points between two players just for those cards alone. And this doesn't even include each card's welcome bonus. Having a player 2 can also mean additional benefits like using points sharing programs. Aeroplan is a great example where they allow you to create a family account and offer discounts with Aeroplan redemptions as long as one person in the family has elite status with Air Canada. If your player 2 is also one of your traveling companions, then having programs like Marriott Bonvoy will also help with things like splitting hotel costs and so forth. You can also take advantage of the fact that Marriott Bonvoy allows you to send up to 100,000 points per calendar year to another account. This, combined with Marriott's 5th night free when you book using points, is a great way to save money when you're on your next trip. Advice number 4, the points game is a marathon, not a sprint. Similar to dealing with savings and money, we build our wealth and we use it to increase our quality of life. And while it may be tempting to apply for 10 different cards if you meet the spending requirements, there are some very real factors we need to address. The first one is your credit management. Being too aggressive on applications will surely mean that you'll eventually get declined and have the banks wondering why you need credit so badly. Maintaining good payment habits and setting a level of aggression that you're comfortable with is much more important and will definitely help you in the long run. The second reason is spend management. Having too many cards at once can be very confusing because you need to hit different minimum spends at different times. This can promote overspending, which pretty much defeats the purpose of this hobby. We're trying to optimize our day-to-day natural spending, not create spending in order to meet bonuses. There are some cases where a little bit of extra spending can be justified because the rewards you're getting is much more valuable, but for the most part, it's much more important to stick to your own financial goals. It's definitely a vital rule to treat this race like a marathon. From your first few credit cards, you will be able to build up a small base of points. These will act similar to an emergency fund. The points are there to be used, but the important thing is that you'll have a reserve and you'll have points available no matter where you want to go. From then on out, you'll need to consider cards based on your earn and your burn rates. If you're looking at taking a more extravagant flight in first class example, then it might be a good time to pick up something like the Aeroplan Reserve and pick up a large bonus so you're not scrambling for points at the last minute. The worst thing is for you to see a redemption on the website, but you don't have enough points to redeem it. One of the most common excuses that I get from people that I advise are, oh, I won't really need to travel until X date, or okay, I'll get the card when I start traveling. More often than not, these same people will dish out several $1,000s just to get the exact same flight booked. Moral of the story, you're going to regret not having that base of points, so it's always good to start early and maintain a consistent pace with your points collecting. And if that's not enough rules and advice for you, then I have advice piece number 5, to have fun with it. I'll be honest, playing with points is pretty much a numbers game. From bonuses to earn rates, you're looking at numbers, and it can get really boring, if not outright daunting.
You're dealing with numbers all day long. Decimal points, high frequencies, bang, 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 fucking digits.
And I think because of this, you should really take it at your own pace and enjoy the process. Whether it's looking at travel videos like Sam Chui, Prince of Travel, or looking at the Air Canada or Alaska website to investigate which flight you're going to book next, these are some great ways to keep you motivated and to keep your eyes on the ball. I think for most people, collecting something where you don't see its immediate value can be very scary. But once you step into your first business class or first class cabin and you don't have 4 to 6 people trying to shove their way past you, then I think at that point it'll all have paid off. And before long, if you're following the steps that I laid out, you too can be a points millionaire. And honestly, I'm just flexing. Nobody really cares. So earn your Aeroplan points and burn them. Don't be a degenerate like me, hoarding 1 million Aeroplan points, sitting at home, yelling in front of their camera. Just don't. But if you did enjoy today's episode, I definitely recommend you to give me a quick thumbs up and subscribing to my channel and clicking on that, I think, notification bell for even more travel hacking content. And you've probably figured it out. When I say bell, I actually don't know where the bell is. I think that a subscribe button is somewhere down here, but I'll figure it out at some point. Thanks for tuning in, and I'll see you in the next video. Peace.